Ms. Linda Taylor had dedicated nearly 2 decades of her life to teaching. At 45, she was the kind of teacher everyone remembered, the one who pushed her students to dream big, who stayed late to tutor struggling kids, and who attended school plays, sports events, and community activities just to cheer her students on. She believed in education's power to change lives, but over the years, the system had worn her down. Her small public school was underfunded, with outdated textbooks, malfunctioning technology, and limited resources. The administration did its best, but the needs always seemed to outweigh the funds. Linda often dipped into her own pocket to buy supplies or cover field trips for kids whose parents couldn't afford it. On this particular day, Linda felt the weight of it all pressing down on her. She had arrived early, hoping to get a head start on grading papers and organizing the materials for her science class. But by the time she walked into her classroom, she was already behind. The classroom, though humble, was Linda's pride. Posters of famous scientists and motivational quotes adorned the walls. Student art projects hung proudly near the windows, and a world map stretched across the back wall. The desks were mismatched, with some wobbling precariously, but Linda had arranged them in a way that fostered collaboration and creativity. As the bell rang, signaling the start of the school day, students poured in with their usual energy. Among them was Emma, a bright-eyed fifth grader with a penchant for asking big questions. "Miss Taylor, I brought the leaves you asked for," Emma chirped, holding up a bag filled with colorful foliage. Linda smiled warmly. "Thank you, Emma. Those will be perfect for our project." But even as she engaged with her students, Linda couldn't shake the feeling of exhaustion. The stack of ungraded assignments on her desk loomed large, and her personal laptop, a relic from a decade ago, had been running so slowly that she couldn't finish preparing her lesson plans. Halfway through the morning, the ancient classroom projector flickered and died during a science demonstration. "Oh no," Linda muttered, tapping the machine in vain. "Is it broken again?" one student asked. "I'm afraid so," Linda replied, forcing a smile. "Looks like we'll have to rely on our imaginations for this one." The students groaned, but Linda quickly shifted gears, improvising the rest of the lesson. Still, she couldn't help but feel disheartened. Her dream had always been to inspire young minds, but the daily grind of battling systemic issues often made her question whether she was making a difference. As the final bell rang, Linda sat at her desk, staring at the mountain of papers she still needed to grade. Her head throbbed, and her shoulders ached from hunching over her computer the previous night. "Miss Taylor, are you okay?" Emma asked, lingering near the door. Linda looked up, touched by the concern in the young girl's eyes. "I'm fine, Emma. Just a little tired." Emma hesitated before saying, "You're the best teacher, you know. We're lucky to have you." Linda's heart swelled, and for a moment the exhaustion faded. "Thank you, Emma. That means a lot." As Emma left, Linda sighed and began organizing her desk. She was about to pack up for the day when a knock at the door startled her. "Come in," she called, expecting to see a student who had forgotten something. Instead, a tall man in a sharp suit entered the room. His presence was striking, his posture confident yet approachable. Linda blinked, unsure of who he was or why he was there. "Ms. Taylor?" the man said, his tone warm but direct. "Yes, that's me," Linda replied, standing up from her chair. The man extended his hand. "I'm Elon Musk. I've been visiting schools to learn more about the challenges teachers face." Linda froze, her mind racing. Elon Musk? As in Tesla and SpaceX?" Elon chuckled. "That's right." For a moment, Linda was too stunned to speak. What was one of the world's most influential innovators doing in her modest classroom? "I've heard a lot about you, Ms. Taylor," Elon said, his gaze sweeping across the room. "Your dedication to your students, your creative approach to teaching despite limited resources. It's inspiring." Linda felt her cheeks flush. "I don't know what to say. I'm just doing my job." "Well," Elon said, "it sounds like you're doing much more than that." He gestured toward the stack of papers on her desk. "Is this all grading?" Linda nodded, feeling a bit self-conscious. "Yes, and lesson planning too. It's part of the job." Elon's expression softened. "I can see how much you care, but it shouldn't be this hard. May I sit down?" "Of course," Linda said, pulling out a chair. As Elon sat, he began asking her about her work, her students, and the challenges she faced. Linda was hesitant at first, but soon found herself opening up. She told him about the outdated equipment, the lack of funding, and the personal sacrifices she made to keep her classroom running. "I love my students," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "But sometimes it feels like I'm fighting an uphill battle." Elon listened intently, nodding as she spoke. When she finished, he leaned forward. "Ms. Taylor, I want to help," he said. Linda blinked, unsure of what he meant. "Help? How?" Elon smiled. "Let's start with this." He reached into his bag and pulled out a sleek tablet, sliding it across the desk toward her. "This is for you," he said. "It's loaded with tools to make grading, lesson planning, and student communication easier." Linda picked up the tablet, her fingers trembling. I don't know what to say. Thank you." But Elon wasn't done. He reached into his bag again and pulled out a small envelope. "And this," he said, handing it to her, "is to support your classroom." Linda opened the envelope cautiously. Inside was a check for an amount that made her gasp. This is too much," she stammered. "I can't accept this." "Yes, you can," Elon said firmly. "Use it to buy supplies, update your equipment, or even take a well-deserved break. You and your students deserve it." Tears welled in Linda's eyes as she looked at Elon. She had spent years giving everything she had to her students, never expecting anything in return. Now, here was one of the most successful people in the world, recognizing her efforts and offering her the support she had always dreamed of. For the first time in years, Linda felt truly seen. Linda sat in stunned silence, clutching the envelope as if it might vanish at any moment. The amount inside wasn't just generous, it was life-changing for her classroom. "Elon," she began hesitantly, "I don't know how to thank you. This is going to make such a difference." Elon smiled, leaning back in the chair. "You don't need to thank me, Ms. Taylor. What you're doing here, shaping young minds, giving them hope and knowledge, is worth far more than this. I just want to help you keep doing it." Linda took a deep breath, trying to process everything. The tablet, the check. It felt like a dream. "But why me? Why this school?" she asked, genuinely curious. Elon's expression grew serious. "When I was younger, I had teachers who believed in me when nobody else did. Without them, I wouldn't be where I am today. Teachers like you are the backbone of society, yet you're often undervalued and overworked. I wanted to see firsthand what's happening in schools and find ways to help." Linda nodded, her heart swelling with gratitude. "It's not easy, but I love what I do. My students, each one of them, they're worth every late night, every sacrifice." "I can tell," Elon said, his eyes scanning the room. "But imagine what you could do with the right resources. What's your biggest challenge right now?" Linda hesitated, then gestured toward the malfunctioning projector. Technology is a big one. Most of our equipment is outdated or broken. It's hard to keep students engaged when I can't show them the visuals and tools they need to understand the material. Elon's brow furrowed in thought. "Consider it done," he said simply. Linda blinked. "What do you mean?" "I'll make sure this classroom and the whole school gets the technology it needs," Elon replied. "Tablets, projectors, interactive boards, you name it. I'll work with the administration to make it happen." Linda's jaw dropped. "You'd really do that? For us?" "Absolutely," Elon said. "Education is the foundation of everything. If we want a better future, we need to invest in it today." For the next hour, Elon stayed in Linda's classroom, listening to her ideas and concerns. She spoke about her dreams of creating a science lab where students could experiment and explore, and about starting after-school programs for kids who needed extra help. "Those are great ideas," Elon said. "Let's make them a reality." "But how?" Linda asked, still in disbelief. "Leave that to me," Elon replied with a grin. "I've got a few connections." Linda laughed despite herself. "I'm sure you do." As they talked, a few students peeked into the classroom, curious about the man in the suit. Emma was the first to enter, her eyes wide with excitement. "Miss Taylor, is he famous?" Emma whispered, glancing at Elon. Linda chuckled. "Yes, Emma, he is. This is Mr. Elon Musk." Emma's jaw dropped. "The rocket guy?" "That's me," Elon said, giving Emma a friendly wave. Emma turned to Linda, her face lighting up. "Does this mean we're getting a rocket in class?" Elon laughed, the sound warm and genuine. "Not quite, but I'll make sure you get everything you need to succeed." As more students gathered, Elon took a few moments to speak with them, answering their questions and encouraging them to dream big. His presence filled the room with an energy that was both inspiring and hopeful. Before he left, Elon turned to Linda one last time. "You're not alone in this anymore," he said. "We'll stay in touch, and I'll make sure you have the support you need." Linda's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you, Mr. Musk. You have no idea what this means to me and my students." Elon smiled. "I think I do. Keep doing what you're doing, Ms. Taylor. The world needs more teachers like you." As he walked out the door, Linda felt a wave of emotion wash over her. For years, she had carried the weight of her classroom alone, believing that change was a distant dream. But now, for the first time, she felt hope, real, tangible hope, that things could be different. She turned to her students, who were still buzzing with excitement. "All right, everyone," she said, her voice steady and strong. "Let's get back to work. We've got big things ahead." The room erupted into cheers, and Linda couldn't help but smile. This was what it was all about. In the days that followed Elon Musk's visit, a ripple of excitement spread throughout the school. News of his generosity and plans for the school reached the ears of every teacher, parent, and student. For the first time in years, the school felt alive with possibility. Linda found herself at the center of it all. Her colleagues approached her with questions, ideas, and gratitude. "I can't believe you met Elon Musk," said Mr. Carson, the history teacher. "And he's actually going to help the school?" "It's true," Linda said, still marveling at the reality of it. "He's promised us new technology, resources for the students, and even funding for programs we've only dreamed of starting." The school administration quickly got involved, arranging meetings and planning how to best utilize the support Elon had offered. Representatives from his team visited the school to assess its needs, listening to the teachers and staff. But the most exciting changes were happening in Linda's classroom. One morning, as she walked into her room, she was greeted by a crew setting up brand new interactive whiteboards, a state-of-the-art projector, and a set of tablets for her students. Linda stood in the doorway, speechless. Emma was the first to notice. "Miss Taylor, look!" she said, pointing to the shiny new equipment. Linda smiled, her heart swelling with gratitude. "It's amazing, isn't it?" The students gathered around the tablets, their faces lighting up as they explored the educational apps and tools. For kids who had never had access to such resources, it was like stepping into a new world. As Linda watched them, she realized how much this would change their lives. They could now access information, practice skills, and explore subjects in ways that had never been possible before. And it wasn't just about technology. Elon's visit had ignited something in the students, a sense of curiosity and ambition that hadn't been there before. "Miss Taylor," Emma said one afternoon, "do you think I could build a rocket someday?" Linda knelt down beside her, meeting her eyes. "I think you can do anything you set your mind to, Emma." Emma beamed, and Linda felt a surge of pride. But it wasn't only the students who were inspired. Parents began getting involved, volunteering to help with the school's transformation. They painted walls, cleaned up the playground, and donated supplies. One Saturday, Linda joined a group of parents and teachers to create a new science corner in her classroom. As they worked, she couldn't help but marvel at the sense of community that had blossomed. "This is what we've needed for so long," said Mrs. Garcia, a parent. "Someone to show us that we're worth investing in." Linda nodded. "And now that we have it, we can do so much more for these kids." By the end of the day, the science corner was complete, with shelves full of supplies and posters of the solar system on the walls. The centerpiece was a telescope that Elon's team had donated, sparking endless excitement among the students. The changes weren't limited to Linda's classroom. The school as a whole was benefiting from Elon's support. A new library was being set up, complete with computers and a wide selection of books. After-school programs were in the works, offering tutoring, arts, and sports for students who needed extra support. And yet, through it all, Linda remained grounded. She knew that while the resources were incredible, the real change came from the people, the teachers, parents, and students, who were coming together to build a better future. One day, as she was organizing her classroom, Linda received a call from Elon's office. "Ms. Taylor," said the voice on the other end, "Mr. Musk would like to invite you to an event next month to showcase the impact of his educational initiatives. He's particularly interested in highlighting your story and your students' progress." Linda felt a mix of nerves and excitement. "I'd be honored," she said. As she hung up, she thought about how far they had come. Her classroom, once a place of struggle and scarcity, was now a hub of opportunity and growth. And it was only the beginning. The day of the event arrived faster than Linda expected. It was hosted in a grand auditorium bustling with media, educators, and tech enthusiasts. Linda, dressed in her best professional attire, felt both overwhelmed and excited as she stepped into the spotlight. She wasn't alone. Alongside her were a few of her students, including Emma, who had been buzzing with excitement ever since she learned she would be attending. "Do you think Mr. Musk will be there?" Emma asked, clutching a small notebook. "I want to show him my rocket drawing." Linda smiled. "I'm sure he'll love it, sis." The event began with a showcase of Elon Musk's various philanthropic endeavors, including renewable energy projects, space exploration, and now, education. When it was time to talk about the school initiative, a presenter invited Linda onto the stage. As she walked up, her heart pounded in her chest. She looked out at the crowd, filled with influential figures and journalists, and took a deep breath. "Good afternoon," she began, her voice steady despite the nerves. "My name is Linda Taylor, and I'm a teacher at a public school that serves some of the most incredible students you'll ever meet." She paused, gathering her thoughts. Like many schools, ours faced challenges, limited resources, outdated technology, and a lack of support. But despite these obstacles, my students never stopped dreaming, and neither did I. The audience listened intently as Linda shared her story. She talked about the day Elon Musk visited her classroom, the hope he brought, and the transformation that followed. "But this isn't just about one classroom," she continued. "It's about what happens when we all come together to invest in education. It's about showing kids that their dreams matter and giving them the tools to achieve them." As Linda finished her speech, the crowd erupted into applause. She glanced to the side of the stage and saw Elon standing there, smiling and clapping. He walked onto the stage, shaking Linda's hand warmly. "Thank you, Ms. Taylor, for sharing your story. You're an inspiration to all of us." Linda stepped aside as Elon addressed the audience. "Education is the foundation of our future," he began. "It's where innovation starts, where dreams are born." When I visited Ms. Taylor's classroom, I saw firsthand the dedication of teachers and the potential of students. It was a reminder of why we must do more to support our schools. He paused, looking out at the audience. "And this is just the beginning. My team and I are committed to expanding these initiatives, reaching more schools, more students, and more teachers who deserve our support." The applause that followed was deafening. After the event, Linda and her students had the chance to speak with Elon personally. Emma shyly handed him her notebook, showing off her rocket drawing. "This is amazing," Elon said, crouching down to her level. "You've got talent, Emma. Keep working on this, and who knows? Maybe you'll design a rocket for SpaceX one day." Emma's eyes lit up. "Really?" "Absolutely," Elon replied. "Dream big, okay?" The moment was a highlight for Linda, who couldn't help but feel proud of her students and grateful for the opportunities they were being given. Before leaving, Elon pulled Linda aside. "I want you to know that what you're doing matters. Keep believing in your students, and we'll keep supporting you." Linda nodded, her voice thick with emotion. "Thank you, Mr. Musk, for everything." As they returned to the school, Linda couldn't stop thinking about the event. It wasn't just a celebration of what had been achieved. It was a promise of what was to come. Back at the school, the momentum from the event carried forward. The students were buzzing with excitement, and the teachers were more inspired than ever. Linda felt a renewed sense of purpose every time she stepped into her classroom. The changes weren't just physical. Yes, the new technology and resources were incredible, but the most profound impact was on the students' mindsets. Emma, once shy and unsure, now spoke confidently about her dreams. She began working on small science projects at home, often bringing them to school to show Ms. Taylor. "Ms. Taylor, look, I made a mini rocket with my dad," Emma exclaimed one morning, holding up a homemade creation. "That's amazing, Emma," Linda said, examining the project. "You've got a real talent for this." The other students were just as motivated. They began taking more initiative, asking questions and exploring subjects they'd never shown interest in before. And it wasn't just the students. Parents became more involved in their children's education, attending school events and supporting the teachers. One evening, Linda hosted a parent-teacher meeting to discuss the new programs and resources. The room was packed, with standing room only. "I want to thank all of you for believing in our school and our students," Linda said, addressing the crowd. "This is a community effort, and together we can keep making a difference." The parents applauded, many of them expressing their gratitude afterward. But perhaps the most heartwarming moment came a few weeks later when Linda received a letter from one of her former students, Jamal. "Dear Ms. Taylor," it read, "I heard about everything happening at the school, and I just wanted to say thank you. You always believed in me, even when things were tough. I'm in college now, studying engineering, and I wouldn't be here without you." Linda wiped away tears as she read the letter. It was a reminder of why she had become a teacher in the first place, to make a difference no matter how small. As the months turned into a year, the school continued to thrive. New programs were introduced, test scores improved, and more students went on to pursue higher education. Linda often thought about Elon Musk's visit and the chain reaction it had set off. What had started as a simple act of kindness had grown into something much bigger, a movement of hope and opportunity. One day, as she stood at the front of her classroom, watching her students work on a group project, Linda felt a deep sense of fulfillment. "Miss Taylor," Emma said, looking up from her work, "do you think we'll ever meet Mr. Musk again?" Linda smiled. "I don't know, Emma. But even if we don't, we'll always remember what he taught us, to dream big, work hard, and never give up." As the bell rang and the students packed up their things, Linda took a moment to look around her classroom. The changes were everywhere, on the walls, in the resources, but most importantly, in the faces of her students. They were filled with hope, determination, and the belief that anything was possible. And that, Linda realized, was the greatest gift of all. As Linda looked around her classroom one final time, she couldn't help but reflect on how far they had come. The journey from that fateful day when Elon Musk had walked into her classroom, offering not just his support but his belief in her students, had transformed everything. What started as a simple act of kindness, a gesture of encouragement, had blossomed into something far greater than she could have imagined. The classroom was filled with the sound of eager young voices, a stark contrast to the silence that once filled the same space, where students had felt unseen and unheard. Now, every student has a sense of purpose. They were dreamers, creators, and doers, emboldened by the belief that they could change the world. And that was the true magic of what had happened. Just as Linda had once stood before a room filled with challenges, she now stood before a room filled with hope. She had not only changed the course of her students' lives, but she had also rekindled the fire of possibility in herself. It wasn't just about technology or funding. It was about believing in others, investing in their potential, and showing them that no dream was too big. Elon Musk's visit was not just about a wealthy entrepreneur making a difference. It was a testament to the power of community, compassion, and the belief that one small action could ignite a movement of change. What had started with a single gesture, an unexpected kindness, had turned into an enduring legacy that would shape the future for generations of students. Linda stood at the front of her classroom, her heart full, knowing that this was only the beginning of something much larger. The lesson was clear. When you offer a hand to lift someone else up, you change the world, one life at a time. And just as she had once shared with her students, Linda knew that no matter what, they would continue to dream big, work hard, and never give up.